The day started just like any other, with me tidying up the house, a house that Tom and I had turned into a home over the last 5 years. As a decorator consultant at a large furniture supermarket, I had the skills and the eye, and our home was my canvas. Everything was perfectly in place, each room styled with a personal touch that made it uniquely ours. Tom was in the backyard, fussing over his new grill, when Lydia's old Ford rolled into the driveway. I watched from the window, my heart sinking just a tad. Tom had mentioned his sister was in a rough spot, needed a place to crash for a bit while she sorted out her life. Despite my reservations, how could I say no? Family's family, right? Lydia was dragging her suitcases up the driveway when I opened the door. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Oh, thank you for having me," she gushed, dropping her bags and pulling me into a hug that smelled faintly of cigarettes and fast food. "We're glad to help out, Lydia. Come on in, let me show you where you'll be staying," I said, leading her to the guest room, her suitcase wheels thudding against our hardwood floors. Tom came in, all smiles, and wrapped his sister in a bear hug. "Lydia, you're gonna bounce back in no time. Sarah and I got your back." I nodded, offering a smile that I hoped looked genuine. "Of course, we're here for you." As the first few days unfolded, Lydia's presence in the house was like a stone in my shoe, noticeable, but not yet painful. She spent most of her time on the couch with her laptop open, a constant stream of job sites and emails on display. One evening, as I was chopping vegetables for dinner, Lydia wandered into the kitchen. "Hey, Sarah, I just wanted you to know I'm really trying here. I've sent out like 20 resumes today alone," she said, leaning against the counter. "I hope you find something soon. If you need help with your resume or prepping for interviews, let me know. I've got a good eye for details," I offered, and her face brightened. Tom walked in just then, slapping Lydia on the back. "See, I told you Sarah's the best. We'll all get through this together." As they chatted, I turned back to my chopping, my thoughts racing. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Maybe Lydia really was here just to get back on her feet. As I listened to her laugh with Tom, a part of me wanted to believe that everything would turn out okay. But as the days stretched on, and Lydia's initial flurry of job hunting seemed to dwindle, the weight of her presence began to press down a little more each day. I noticed her doing less searching and more scrolling through social media, her assurances becoming less frequent. "Everything okay with the job hunt?" I asked one morning, finding her curled up on the couch with a cup of coffee and her phone. "Oh, yeah, just taking a little break today. To recharge," she replied, not looking up. As the weeks slipped by, the sheen of Lydia's initial promises dimmed like a neglected silver platter. I had hoped, maybe even prayed a little, that Lydia would find her stride and move out, but it seemed she was more interested in settling into our life than building one of her own. One sunny Thursday, I was supposed to meet a client to finalize some decor details, a meeting crucial to my reputation and career. But as fate would have it, my plans were about to be derailed. I came downstairs, keys in hand, ready to leave, only to find the driveway empty. My car, my trusty old sedan, was gone. A cold prick of panic shot through me as I spun around, searching for any sign of Lydia. She was also gone. I dialed her number. "Lydia, where's my car?" I demanded, my voice a sharp crack in the morning calm. "Oh, I borrowed it. I needed to run some errands," she replied cheerfully. The loud voices in the background clearly did not correspond to office work. "You took my car without asking?" "I have a client meeting in half an hour, Lydia. How could you be so thoughtless?" I felt my cheeks flushing with anger. "Relax, Sarah. I'll be back in time. You're making a mountain out of a molehill, as usual." "As usual?" The audacity stung me more than the inconvenience. I called Tom, hoping he'd share my outrage, but the conversation didn't go as I hoped. "Babe, she's just trying to sort herself out. Maybe give her a break? Can't you reschedule the meeting?" Tom's voice was calm, too calm. "She's not trying, Tom. She's taking advantage. And no, I can't just reschedule. This isn't some coffee date, it's my job we're talking about." My words, laced with frustration, felt hollow over the phone. Just work it out, Sarah. Please. For me. And with that, he hung up. Work it out. Right. One afternoon, as I was tidying up the guest room, which had slowly morphed into Lydia's personal chaos, I caught her rummaging through my wardrobe. My hands clenched at my sides as I watched her casually try on my favorite scarf. What do you think you're doing, Lydia? My voice was a low growl. She glanced over her shoulder, a fake smile plastered on her face. Oh, just looking for something decent for an interview. You have such nice things. That doesn't give you the right to go through my things. I snapped, snatching the scarf from her hands. Geez, relax. I wasn't gonna steal it. You're so uptight. Lydia rolled her eyes, brushing past me. Uptight. The word echoed in my ears, taunting me. I felt a familiar rage bubbling up, the same one I had tried to suppress during our numerous, pointless squabbles. That evening, the air between Tom and me was electric with unsaid words. Dinner was a silent affair, punctuated only by the clinking of cutlery and Lydia's oblivious chatter about a job interview that probably didn't exist. Work had been a beast that day, the kind that chews you up and spits you out tired. All I wanted was to come home, eat something warm, and collapse. But as I swung the door open, the first thing I noticed was the mess of takeout bags littering the counter, empty, of course, and the stark absence of anything that resembled dinner. Halfway through heating up some leftover soup, I heard the front door creak open, then shut. Lydia sauntered in, phone to her ear, laughing at something someone had said on the other end. She didn't even glance my way. Lydia, have you been here all day? I asked, my tone more accusatory than I'd intended. She finally looked up from her phone, her brow furrowing as if I'd just asked the world's most unreasonable question. Yeah, I was job hunting. You know, what I'm supposed to be doing. Job hunting doesn't feed us. It's your turn to cook dinner, Lydia. We agreed on this, remember? I countered, my frustration bubbling up. Oh, chill out, Sarah. I got busy. What's the big deal? Just eat some cereal or something. She retorted with a dismissive wave of her hand before leaving the room. The big deal was that I was tired. Tired of her attitude, tired of being the only one trying to keep our home running smoothly while she did nothing. I shook my head, dispelling the anger, and focused on my soup. But the real storm hit later that evening. I was in the living room, flipping through a magazine when a crash from the TV area made me jump. I rushed over to find my favorite vase, the expensive, beautifully crafted one I'd picked out last spring, shattered on the floor, fragments scattered like sharp little lies. Lydia! I yelled, my eyes scanning the room until they landed on her, smiling near the broken vase. Do you have any idea how much that vase meant to me? Before she could respond, the front door opened and Tom walked in, the timing as terrible as ever. Lydia wasted no time. Tears sprang to her eyes as she rushed to him, playing the perfect victim. Tom, I was just trying to clean, and Sarah started yelling at me. She broke her own vase and is blaming me. Her voice was choked with feigned distress. Tom's face turned a shade darker as he turned to me, his disappointment palpable. Sarah, why are you being so hard on her? She's already stressed enough. Apologize to her, now. My mouth fell open. Apologize? To her? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tom, you've got it all wrong. No, Sarah. I'm tired of coming home to you two at each other's throats. Just apologize and let's have some peace. He interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. Lydia smugly wiped her tears, a tiny victorious smile playing on her lips as Tom walked away. She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper. See? I told you. I can make him kick you out if I want to. Before I could confront her further, Tom called from the kitchen, his voice harsh and impatient. Sarah, come on and fix some dinner. Stop wasting time on this nonsense. Nonsense. That's what my feelings had been reduced to. I stood there, the fragments of the vase a mirror to how fractured our home life had become. With each day, Lydia's manipulations deepened the chasm between Tom and me, her deceitful tactics painting me as the villain in my own home. The tension in the house had been building like a storm waiting to burst. It was a quiet morning when I finally mustered the courage. Lydia was lounging on the couch as usual, her laptop open but forgotten as she scrolled through her phone. I marched up to her, my resolve firm. "Lydia, we need to talk. What's your end game here? You've been here for weeks, and every day there's a new excuse. Why aren't you leaving?" I demanded, my voice steady, despite the anger bubbling inside. Lydia looked up, her expression unreadable for a moment, then she shrugged with exaggerated nonchalance. "Oh, that's easy. I need money, Sarah. 10 grand should cover it. Pay up, and I'll be out of your hair." I was so taken aback by her audacity that for a moment, I couldn't speak. Then anger took over. "Get out. Get out of my house, now." Just as the words left my lips, Tom walked into the room. Lydia wasted no time. She burst into tears, rushing to him and burying her face in his chest. "Tom, she's being so horrible to me. I just need a little help, and she's throwing me out." Tom's face darkened as he turned to me, his eyes full of confusion and concern. "Sarah, what's going on? Why are you trying to kick my sister out without discussing it with me?" I was furious, not just with Lydia, but now with Tom for his blindness. "She just told me she wants $10,000 to leave, Tom. She's using us. And now she's playing you like a fiddle." Lydia, still clutching Tom, looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "It's true, I need the money. But there's more, I'm pregnant, Tom. I have no insurance, nothing. I didn't know who else to turn to." Tom's expression softened immediately as he turned to me, his gaze hardening. "Sarah, how can you be so cold? We have to help her. She's family." I was speechless with frustration. "She's lying, Tom. Don't you see? We need to verify this. Let's go to a doctor. Let's get proof." But Tom shook his head, stepping away from both of us, his decision clear in his posture. "No. I believe her, Sarah. She's my sister. You need to show some compassion. We're helping her." As he walked away, Lydia stuck her tongue out at me behind his back, a childish and mocking gesture that only fueled my rage. The conversation left me feeling isolated and betrayed. Tom, the man I had built a home and a life with, had chosen his manipulative sister over his wife. The injustice of it was suffocating. I'd tried to hold on to some semblance of peace, but after the conversation with Tom about Lydia's supposed pregnancy and need for money, things had only gone downhill. Lydia seemed to think her pregnancy, real or imagined, was a free pass to treat our home like her personal landfill. Dirty dishes, takeout boxes, and her clothes were strewn everywhere like decorations in her personal pigsty. One particularly exhausting day, I decided I needed a breather, a few days at my parents' house, to clear my head. They were always a haven of sanity for me, and Lord knew I needed that now. Returning home after those few days felt like walking back into a nightmare. The sink overflowed with dirty dishes, pizza boxes were stacked on the counter like some sort of greasy Jenga game. I was on the verge of exploding, ready to unleash every pent-up frustration on Tom when I found him sprawled on the couch, looking miserable and sick. The anger paused, replaced by concern. "Tom, what happened? Why didn't you clean up, or better yet, why didn't Lydia help out?" I asked, my voice a mix of worry and frustration as I knelt beside him. He coughed weakly, his voice hoarse. "I got hit with the flu or something. Been like this for a couple of days. Lydia said she couldn't risk getting sick because of the baby." Right on cue, Lydia entered the room, her timing as impeccable as ever. "Exactly. A pregnant woman needs to stay away from germs. And cleaning is just too much strain. You wouldn't want me to get hurt, would you?" Her voice dripped with a feigned concern that didn't reach her eyes. I stared at her, the anger simmering again, but I swallowed it down. Instead, I set about cleaning the house myself, maneuvering around Tom's languid form and Lydia's smug glances. As I scrubbed and swept, The state of my marriage seemed to mirror the state of our home, neglected and in disarray. Later that night, as I cooked some soup for Tom, hoping it might soothe whatever ailed him, he called out from the living room. "Sarah, can we talk?" I ladled the soup into a bowl and brought it over to him, sitting down beside him on the couch. "What's up?" He took the bowl, but didn't eat, his eyes meeting mine with a seriousness that made my stomach clench. "I'm sorry about all this. It's just, with Lydia here, I know it's been hard on you." "Hard on me?" I repeated, my voice rising despite my attempts to keep calm. "Tom, it's not just hard on me. It's tearing us apart. She's manipulating you, us. This isn't about her being in a tough spot, it's about her taking advantage of our kindness." He looked away, his jaw tightening. I can't turn my back on her. But I promise, we'll figure this out. We'll get our lives back to normal." I wanted to believe him, to trust that somehow we could navigate back to the us we used to be before Lydia's storm hit us. But as I looked around at the home that no longer felt like mine, doubt gnawed at me. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I stumbled upon the truth that would shift the very foundations of our household. I was passing by the guest room, Lydia's current den, when I heard her hushed, conspiratorial voice seeping through the door. She was on the phone, and the snippet of conversation I caught made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Yeah, as soon as they're out of the house, we can start up. It'll be perfect." The line went dead as I pressed my ear against the door, my mind racing. What was she planning? The vague yet ominous words clung to me like a second skin as I paced back and forth, trying to make sense of it all. Something bad was about to go down, and I had to prevent it. Later that evening, I laid out my plan to Tom, my voice steady, but my hands trembling. "Tom, I think Lydia is planning something serious. I overheard her talking about starting something once we're out. We need to do something drastic." Tom, looking weary, rubbed his temples. "Like what? What do you want to do, Sarah?" "Let's install hidden cameras in the house. We can pretend to go away for a few days. If she's innocent, great. But if she isn't, we'll have the proof we need," I proposed, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "And if you're wrong?" Tom's eyes narrowed slightly, a challenge in his gaze. "Then I'll leave," I stammered, the gravity of my own words sinking in. "I'll leave you two alone, and you won't have to choose between us anymore." The next day, while Lydia was out, supposedly at another one of her endless job interviews, I had a professional come in and install cameras in several key spots around the house. When Lydia returned, Tom and I put on our act. "Lydia, Sarah, and I need to take a trip, a sort of second honeymoon," Tom announced, his arm around my shoulders. I tried not to stiffen at his touch, the lie chafing like a rough seam. Lydia's eyes lit up, a too quick smile spreading across her face. "Oh, that's wonderful. How long will you be gone?" "Just a few days," I chimed in, keeping my voice light. Tom and I retreated to a nearby hotel, a room with a view that overlooked nothing but the bustling street below, a stark contrast to the serene home we had left behind. We set up our laptop, the live feed from the cameras flickering to life on the screen. The first day, nothing remarkable happened. Lydia lounged on the couch, her routine unchanged, pizza, phone calls filled with laughter, and more lounging. As the hours ticked by, a knot formed in my stomach. Had I been wrong? Was this all just a massive overreaction? The morning light barely filtered through the curtains of our hotel room when I awoke with a sense of foreboding. We hadn't spoken much since setting up the cameras, each of us lost in our own whirlpool of thoughts and doubts. But that silence was shattered when Tom's sharp intake of breath drew my attention to the laptop screen. "What the?" Tom's voice broke as we watched in real-time horror. There she was, Lydia, her face alight with a malicious glee that chilled my blood. She wasn't alone. Two figures, large and looming, followed her around our home. Lydia directed them with a conductor's flair, pointing out where we kept our valuables, our keepsakes, our memories. She then stopped by the safe, the combination of which only family knew, and spun the dial with practiced ease. This is perfect, Lydia's voice was clear through the audio feed. Once it looks like we've been robbed, it'll all be over. Quick punch to sell it, okay? One of the accomplices nodded before hesitantly raising his fist and striking her across the face. The sound was a dull thud, Lydia's cry a sharp contrast. Then, as if on cue, they ransacked a bit more, before hastily exiting through the back door. Call the police, now. I snapped, fumbling with my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed. Tom was already on his phone, his voice a steady stream of urgent whispers. Minutes later, sirens filled the feed's audio as police swarmed into our house. Lydia was on the floor, her act pitiful as she clutched her cheek, moaning about a robbery. We didn't wait, we drove back immediately, reaching the house just as a police officer was helping Lydia to her feet. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw us. There. Please, they took everything. Lydia sobbed, her performance worthy of an award. Officer, you need to see this, Tom said, his voice cold as he handed over his phone with the live recording. The room fell silent as the footage played, the betrayal stark and undeniable. Lydia's face drained of color, her eyes darting around, seeking an ally where there was none to be found. You've always had it easy, Tom. Always got everything. Lydia yelled as she was led away. I just wanted my share, and you couldn't even give me that. Tom, who had always been the peacemaker, the family man, finally broke. I gave you a home, Lydia. I trusted you, and you tried to rob us blind. Her last-ditch effort was as pitiful as it was predictable. I'm pregnant, Tom. You can't let them take me. Tom didn't flinch. You're not pregnant. You're just a liar. It's over, Lydia. As the police took her away, her curses and insults echoed off the walls, a stark reminder of the chaos she'd brought into our lives. When the door closed behind her, the silence was deafening. Tom turned to me, his eyes red-rimmed and weary. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you from the start. It's okay, Tom, I said, though my voice cracked. It's over now. Let's just try to move on. He nodded, pulling me into a tight embrace, his body shaking with a mixture of relief and sobs. I held him, feeling the pieces of our fractured life pressing into my skin, sharp and demanding. The courtroom was thick with tension. Tom and I sat side by side, hands clasped, as the judge laid down the verdict. On the count of burglary and conspiracy, the court finds the defendant, Lydia Carlton, guilty as charged. Tom squeezed my hand. He had made the hard choice, the right choice, not to stand up for Lydia. The sister he once knew was gone, replaced by this stranger who shared her face, but not her soul. And yes, she lied about her pregnancy. As we left the courthouse, the sun broke through the clouds, a literal and metaphorical slice of light cutting through the darkness. That's when I decided to share my news with Tom, the news I'd been holding close like a talisman through the storm. Tom, I need to tell you something important, I began, my voice a whisper against the wind. He turned to me, his eyes weary yet hopeful. What is it, love? I took a deep breath, my heart galloping. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. The world paused, no, it stopped. The noise, the wind, the lingering traces of fear. All of it ceased in the moment Tom's face broke into a wide, incredulous smile. He lifted me into the air, a laugh bubbling up from his chest, pure and clear. We're going to be parents. He set me down, kissing me fiercely, a kiss that spoke of new beginnings and healed wounds. Life settled into a comforting routine. My pregnancy was smooth, and with each passing day, our anticipation grew. Tom transformed the guest room, the room that had harbored so many dark moments, into a nursery. One quiet evening, as we sat curled up on the couch, Tom's phone rang. The screen flashed Lydia's name, a number now registered to the prison. Without a word, he declined the call and then, with a decisive thumb, blocked the number. She's already called a few times, was all he said, his voice flat. What did she want? I asked, though I already knew. To ask for money. For a lawyer. To file for clemency. He replied, his gaze not meeting mine. I blocked her. Sarah. That part of our lives is over. We're moving forward, just us and our little one on the way. I leaned into him, a sigh of relief mingling with one of contentment escaping me. Thank you, Tom. For choosing us. For choosing our future. We're going to be okay, he murmured, and I knew he was right. The road hadn't been easy, and the shadows of betrayal might always linger in the corners of our memory, but ahead of us lay a path marked with hope and the promise of new life.